Hello, welcome back. I am Hawkeye. There's a remote there. And I'm here to bring the final film of the original Superman films, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Unfortunately, sorry, couldn't get it all on my little board up there, but I just put Quest for Peace up there. So there you have it. Charlie is here to hang out. But anyways, I rewatched this film again just as of yesterday, and the last time I saw it, this and Superman 3, I thought Superman 3 is the worst of the original films, of the Christopher Reeve films. But watching this one again, no, it's not. It certainly is Superman 4. And I'm going to go into some reasons as to why that is. I would definitely not suggest watching this film at all. Just watch the first one and the second one. Those are the Superman films to watch. Now, this film was released on July the 24th, 1987. Now, I remember going to see this film with my dad at the theater. Um, that was, in fact, the same theater I went to see E.T. in. But, anyways, when we went to see the film, there was like, I think, including us, there was like seven people there. So, and that was, I think, on cheap night. So, um, where like certainly in the town over, they did get their film sooner. So maybe everybody that wanted to see the new Superman movie went and ran to that theater to watch it instead of waiting to see it in the hometown. So it was not a very good showing for that film. I liked it at the time. I was also 7 years old. So, like, come on, give me a break, right? But interestingly to note, though, both those theaters sadly have closed down. And in our county, in that county, there are, I believe, zero theaters. There are no theaters to watch movies. Incredible. Uh, but, anyways, now this film was directed by Sidney J. Furie. He had directed Iron Eagle 1, Iron Eagle 2, and Iron Eagle 4. This film was sandwiched in between Iron Eagle 1 and 2. Um, and I believe the original Iron Eagle did have a good box office return. I think it's been eons since I've seen it. I think I've seen all of the Iron Eagle movies, but anywho, the story of this film was done by Lawrence Connor, Mark Rosenthal, and Christopher Reeve himself added to the story as well. And then the screenplay was done by Connor and Rosenthal. Now, those two were a writing duo, a writing team. They looked it up for, just for example, they did the story for Star Trek Six, great flick, um, and the screenplay for the Planet of the Apes remake done in 2001. So they're a writing team. Now, this film had a budget of only $17 million. It was originally supposed to be twice that. And then at the box office, it turned around. It made 36.7 million bucks, or in today's money, that's 98.5 million. Um, but in the end, this film was made by Canon Films, who I think I wrote it down here just before production started. Um, Canon Films had like financial problems, and they had to cut the budget in half. I believe it was in half, and then shorten the film. And I'll get to it as well, but the effects are terrible. Um, so, in what may have been a good movie, maybe due to how the film was handled or needed to be handled due to financial difficulties. Um, because they didn't write a script for a budget of that size. It was a grandiose, big budget film, like a Superman movie, and that's not what happened, unfortunately. Um, Alexander and Ilya Salkind sold the rights to Superman um, to the Cannon Group, which was um, Mannheim Golan and Yoram Globus, for a cool $5 million. And I think that was back in 1986, I believe. Um, so these guys were looking at Superman and saying, or believing they had a cash cow here, or believing that Superman would be able to assist in resurrecting canon films. Perhaps. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. They had to get assistance from Warner Brothers, who I think got distribution rights. Um, and I think they got a bunch of money from the bank, knowing that they were going to be making Superman 4 in order to make this film. And unfortunately, that castle of cards crumpled. Um, but anyways, I'm gonna go into Christopher Reeve. Now in Superman 3, he didn't really want to come back. Like he was always very apprehensive of coming back. So for Superman 4, he was given a real good payout, $6 million. Come back as Superman. He also they needed his okay on the story, which, as I stated, he assisted on. He got credit for that, as well as he had to give the okay for the director of the film. In the end, he actually got credit for second unit director as well. So he did some work behind the camera here too. I'm going to jump into the story real quick. Try and do it real quick. And unfortunately, due to the cuts in the time of the film, I think it was supposed to be a 2 hour and 14-minute movie. It was cut down to 90 minutes. So you're going to have some plot holes, some plots that are left unfinished, no answers to some questions, so stuff like that. But anyways, in this, Clark Kent, he's selling the farm. This is the farm he had grown up on when he was a boy. Now, one of the problems right out of the chute is, okay, where's like his mother? Like, no mention. I think maybe they mentioned her. Like, I'm trying to remember. Because he's talking to the real estate agent or the guy looking to sell the farm. They may talk about her dying, but it's like, ugh. You're okay. You're selling the farm, and then like this is right after the credits, and it's just never returned to. Never. Okay. All right. What was like he while he's there, he takes um kryptonite, I think, or from his home world, like the last piece. So like that I guess that's the point of it, but it's like uh, it doesn't help the story move in any way, um, really. So, but anyways, as well, the Daily Planet has been bought by a sleazeball named David Warfield, played by Sam Wanamaker, who, along with his daughter Lucy, played here by Mariel Hemingway. And yes, she is, in fact, a granddaughter of novelist Ernest Hemingway. So that's quite interesting. But they are looking to give the Daily Planet a new look, a new way of getting their story across, which all they want to do is sell papers. So the front of the paper is just, dripping with sleaze, just terrible headlines, but they just want to sell papers. And this is to the utter horror of Perry White, once again played by Jackie Cooper, and he does a good job. He is still Perry White. Um, Good job there. Uh, and then the first story they come across is a nuclear crisis, which is the main plot of the story. So, like, Superman wants to rid the world of nuclear weapons. Um, that's what he wants to do. Now, Lex Luthor returns. Gene Hackman, he returns, but he's splitting rocks. He's in the jail. But once again, he escapes jail. This time by the help of his nephew Lenny, played by John Cryer. Um, So when he gets out, Lex takes a strand of Superman's hair and creates Nuclear Man to try and destroy Superman for good. So that's the basic gist of the story. Uh, Other problems, like just coming to mind now, like that I'm thinking about, and I'm glad I thought about them because I didn't write them down. For example, Lex Luthor escapes prison, and then he's like in a beautiful, lush skyrise apartment, and there's no reason given as to how the hell is he, like, okay, like, is that where he was originally living? No, he lived in, like, in Superman 1 he was living down in the subway, like he lived in like the sewers. So now he's in a high-rise apartment. I don't know how the hell he got it. No answer is given. You're just to accept that, and that's that. And there's like amazing things he has there, like that looks like you need some money to get, or he stole, but I have no idea how would he get all that stuff. I don't know. You're just to accept that all of this is there, and this is Lex Luthor. Well, I'm sorry. Um, you need to show me how that happened. Tell me how that happened. So it fails there. Now, supposedly, one of the directors that they were really wanting to direct this film was Wes Craven, who had, and I think it really would have worked. He had directed Swamp Thing back in 1982. It was good, as long as he didn't go for that same campiness he did in Swamp Thing, because there's a tone that's already set here with Superman, um, like absolute playfulness and silliness, absolutely, but don't camp out Superman. Um, but he was brought in, but him and Reeve did not get along at all. So Reeve put his foot down and said, "No, we're going to need a new director." And Craven was not brought in to do it. I think it would have been really interesting if Craven did do the film. At the same time, he could only do so much. I think with the budget or the financial problem before this movie started was like the big problem with this film was the cuts, the problems that they were coming across due to not having the money or really filming this properly and doing things the correct, well, the way a Superman film should be made. But if that, but if that wasn't a problem, Wes Craven, I think, would have made a pretty good movie here for sure, I think. And I think it would have rebounded Superman. I do think that would have happened, but you would have seen a completed film. You would have, I don't know. I don't know if Craven would have came in and tweaked the script himself or not. He didn't always do that. He did write films like Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, but I think he might have been able to churn out a pretty good flick. Um, Now, John Williams, this is good. This is a good thing about the film. He does return to do the music. Alexander Courage adapted and conducted Williams' music. Now, he had done the original theme to Star Trek, the Star Trek show back in the 60s. So that's pretty cool. And it's generally the same thing, but there are some added music here. There's a theme. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but I associate it with Lacey Warfield. So her theme, it's pretty good. I like it. It's good. Something different, and it's real good. So the music, once again, gets a thumbs up. And absolutely, it's Superman music, and it really works. Now, as I said earlier, the effects are terrible. I went back after because, in all honesty, I've said in those two, like I expect Superman to fly. So, like, I actually take those effects for granted when it works. Totally take it for granted, and that's hats off to the effects team that did those effects of the first three. Superman 3 still had great graphics, great effects. Um, you believe what you saw generally. Now, Superman 4, the effects were terrible. Um, now, the supervisors for the effects were Harrison Ellenshaw and John Evans. And unfortunately, it kind of falls on their shoulders. But looking at other stuff they had done, they had worked on Star Wars films, they'd worked on Batman. Um, I'm sorry to say, all the other stuff I've seen them work on, that really jumped to me, anyways, were not terribly effects, going on in the film. So once again, I think it's due to budget, and I think with the flying of Superman, it was given to a different team than the original team that done the first three movies, and maybe unfortunately they had to do it because they didn't have the money to get those guys, but it cost them. That decision cost them in making a believable movie. And like if you don't have believable effects in a Superman movie, oh man, you've already got two strikes against you, and you may not even have a bat in your hand here. So, um, because of the effects, it sinks the film like a rock in water. It right out of the chute, and like right after, like right when the film starts, you've got your credit sequence, which is in space, like the original Superman. But here it looks cheap, and I don't know. You got the Superman theme, so that's working, but the effects look cheap, and you have the Earth, and I don't know. It's not as epic by any means. Um, so that sequence doesn't work to me as well. Now, there's a scene in this film, and uh, this could be the most, and like I'll say, there's not like this is not a good film by any means, but there's not a lot of scenes that irritate me in this movie. The one that really does, though, is where they're trying to recapture an amazing scene from the original Superman where Superman and Lois fly. And it really is an amazing scene. It's fabulous. They kind of recreate that scene here, but it comes across as super cheap. Um, and it never even can scratch the surface of becoming anything emotional that was shown in Richard Donner's Superman. Um, so, and then it continues to show its roots where they fly, Superman saves her. Oh, once again that Clark Kent is Superman. Once again, this. Only for him to bring her back um, to the patio or whatever, and then he gives her a hypnotic kiss once again, and she forgets everything. And then it makes me say, like, is Superman like enjoying doing this? Like letting someone know who he is, and then I could just take it all away. And isn't that fun? Like he comes across as a bit of an asshole. Maybe I don't know. It's an irritating scene. It does not work at all. The effects are horrible. Um, it just doesn't work, and it should like they it shouldn't have been done. So that's the worst scene in the film to me. Now, one thing I did like is there's Clark Kent and there's Superman. Well, in Superman 4, there's a love interest for both of those characters, and they're different women. Lois Lane for Superman, but Lacey Warfield for Clark Kent. So Clark has actually turned the head of an attractive lady, finally. And I like that. I like that. Knowing that it's not going to happen. Nothing's going to come out of this, but which leads to, in my opinion, the best scene of the film, and I really like this scene, um, where Superman is going to have an interview with Lois Lane. Meanwhile, Clark Kent is going on a date with Lacey, but they're the same guy. So Clark Kent is Superman, so he has to keep things moving with both women or try and make things happen with both women at the same time. And I really enjoy its playfulness. It gets it. It's good. And good acting, absolutely, from Reeve. He usually really does it as Superman. So I think that was the best scene of the film to me, and it really worked. Um, in saying that, not much else does though. Um, and then a couple things I wrote down that like, and I mean, there's probably like a number of other things. It's just like, I didn't want to like sit down to like nitpick or say, hey, Kay, that wouldn't have happened, or wait, where's this and that? But a couple things was the battle at the end between Nuclear Man and Superman when Nuclear Man shows up to the Daily Planet. Within the blink of an eye, the cops and the SWAT team show up, and I'm like, where did they come from? Like, how did they know any of this was going to happen? What? Uh, okay. Which leads to it would have been a more than likely a bigger scene, um, where they would have been called and then they show up, not just show up like out of nowhere. Um, and in addition, Nuclear Man kidnaps Lacey and they go into space. And she, while in space, doesn't need a spacesuit or any kind of breathing apparatus to help her breathe. She's just in space, and that's totally fine. And even as a child, I knew that was not how things worked. But, anyways, now I own the film. It's part of, I've shown it in other review of this Superman film, four Superman films all together in the same DVD. There are extras in there, and supposedly it does answer these questions, but I'm like, that wasn't the. I don't know. I didn't feel like watching that to try and fill in all these answers. I'm gonna watch the film that was released. That's what I'm gonna go for in this situation, and definitely I would say forget it entirely. But anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna. I enjoyed watching, it even though I didn't like it. I enjoy watching all movies and talking about it. So, anyways, I will enjoy finding Superman Returns and watching it, and then I'm going to review it. So that'll be exciting. And then I'll try and find Man of Steel as well and watch that one. So, anyways, in the end, have yourself a wonderful day and keep watching those movies.